Let's speak to Enes Bayrakli. He's a lecturer in the Department of Political Science at the Turkish German University here in Istanbul. Enes, thank you for your time. This OIC conference has a particular relevance to Turkey because, of course, the gunman's manifesto, it mentioned turning Istanbul into Constantinople, which more than 1,000 years ago was a Christian city. The manifesto talked about bringing down all of Istanbul's minarets. What can Turkey do to reduce Islamophobia around the world?
I think first we need to give a sign, that we are tackling this issue. We are taking this issue seriously. And of course, it is not only Turkey's job to do this, because it's not really the Turkey who is producing this Islamophobic narrative and discourse, especially if you look at the politicians and the media that they are producing this narrative. And that narrative, that rhetoric is actually responsible for these killings, these terrorist attacks against Muslims in New Zealand and also elsewhere, in Europe. So, today's meeting is an important sign that Muslim countries are giving a message, but it is not the Muslim countries' responsibility. This problem is far beyond of the Muslim countries, resources, and because they are not really here responsible in this what is happening here. So I think that it should be the European politicians, European media, or the Western media. They should take this issue seriously. They have to acknowledge the problem first and foremost. So they should, acknowledge that there is a problem with anti-Muslim racism in the world today. So then we can talk about what has to be done, what can be done. However, there is still a denial of Islamophobia or anti-Muslim racism, even if it exists. And of course, the scenes in New Zealand are encouraging. For Muslims also, these are positive signs. However, this is not about really New Zealand. What happened there is not really was a result of the New Zealand media or the politicians. Of course, they played a role maybe. However, this is a much global problem. And all these global narrative and rhetoric on Muslims, all these negative rhetoric about, on Muslims, the generalizations, racist, attacks and racism against Muslims. This paved the way for this attack in New Zealand. So that's why I say, okay, OIC is meeting today. They are, they will probably issue a statement, but then that has to be an answer from the Western counterparts, and they have to take this seriously. And I think here, European Union should play a bigger role, a much bigger role, because the European Union is a union that is, normally for human rights and equality. These are the core values of the European Union. But up until now, European Union was not really taking this issue, I think, seriously. They have a coordinator against.
Okay, Enes, listen, Enes, if you don't mind, we're going to run out of time quickly. I want to pick up on that point that you mentioned about denial of Islamophobia. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, he has praised Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister. He said he will not blame Christianity for a terror attack perpetrated by a white supremacist. But he's also been criticized for the way he's reacted to the attack. He says the West isn't doing enough about Islamophobia. The West says it is doing enough. Is it possibly a case of actually they're starting from a different base about what even Islamophobia is?
I think Islamophobia is not really understood, in the West, really. Islamophobia is anti-Muslim racism. Islamophobia is a threat against to the core values of the European countries, their democratic order, because it's a much bigger problem. It doesn't really affect Muslims. We have seen this in New Zealand. It is a big blow to New Zealand's image. It has, it has a potential of creating more conflict elsewhere. So this is, if people think that this is only the Muslims' problem, I think they have to read the European history once again. What happened in the 1930s in Germany and in other countries. So that's why I think that many people in Europe, they don't grasp the reality of the problem. Only 12% of Muslims are reporting their problems, the Islamophobic attacks towards the authorities, and there are no official statistics and data. I mean, so let alone the acknowledgement of the problem. I mean, that the police or the authority, they don't even record the Islamophobic hate crimes as a separate hate category.
Okay.
So then they say there is no problem. So I think that should be acknowledgement of the problem.
Enes Bayrakli, thank you very much for joining us on TRT World.